Imagine giving birth to twins after emergency surgery. Your body is still bleeding. Your babies are just 6 hours old. And then security guards grab your wheelchair and throw you out the back door into a dirty alley filled with trash and dumpsters. That's exactly what happened to Naomi. They looked at her skin color, they looked at her insurance card, and they decided she was worthless. But what they didn't know, what nobody in that hospital knew, was that Naomi had a secret. A secret she had hidden even from her own husband. And when her billionaire father pulled up in his limousine, smiling, everything changed. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from and make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one I don't want to miss it. Get her out of my hospital, now. Those words echoed through the sterile hallway of Riverside General Hospital. Naomi clutched her 2 newborn babies against her chest, still wearing the thin hospital gown, still bleeding from the emergency cesarean section she had undergone just 6 hours earlier. Her husband Marcus stood in front of her, his arms spread wide, trying to shield his family from the 2 security guards approaching them. The head administrator, a tall man in an expensive suit, pointed toward the exit doors. His face showed no emotion, no mercy, just cold, calculated disgust. Marcus felt his heart pounding so hard he thought it might explode. This could not be happening. His wife had just given birth to twins. She needed rest. She needed medical care. The doctors had said she should stay for at least 3 days, but none of that mattered to the man in the suit. What Marcus did not know, what nobody in that hospital knew, was that someone was already on his way. Someone who would make every single person in that building regret this moment for the rest of their lives. And he would arrive smiling. 3 years earlier, Marcus had met Naomi at a small community center in downtown Chicago. He was teaching a free auto repair class to teenagers from low-income families. She had walked in looking for the literacy program next door. She got lost. He helped her find her way. That was how it started. Marcus was 28 years old, a mechanic who owned a tiny garage with his older brother Samuel. They had inherited it from their father, who had worked himself to death trying to keep it running. Marcus was determined to make the garage successful to honor his father's memory. Naomi was 26, beautiful, with warm brown skin and a smile that could light up any room. She told him she worked in non-profit management, helping charities organize their finances. She drove an old Honda Civic. She wore simple clothes. She lived in a modest apartment on the south side. Marcus fell in love with her kindness. She volunteered at soup kitchens on weekends. She tutored children for free. She never complained about money, even though she clearly did not have much. At least, that is what Marcus believed. On their 6th date, Naomi gave him a gift. It was a simple silver bracelet, thin and delicate, with a small charm shaped like a bird in flight. "My mother gave this to me before she passed away," Naomi said quietly. "She told me that one day I would know the right person to share my life with, and when I met that person, I should give them something that meant everything to me." Marcus looked at the bracelet. "I can't take this. It's too precious." "Then keep it safe for me," Naomi said. "Keep it until the day we both know for certain." Marcus had kept that bracelet in his pocket every single day since. He touched it now, standing in the hospital hallway, feeling the cool metal against his fingers. It reminded him why he was fighting. They got married 1 year after they met. A small ceremony, 30 guests. Naomi's father did not attend. She told Marcus that her father was a complicated man, that they had been distant since her mother's death, that he did not approve of her choices. Marcus never pushed for details. Everyone had family problems. His own mother, Ruth, had been skeptical of Naomi at first. She pulled Marcus aside before the wedding and asked him pointed questions. "Where is her family? Why doesn't she talk about her past? What is she hiding?" Marcus defended Naomi. "She's hiding pain, Mama, that's all. She lost her mother young. Her father abandoned her emotionally. She built her own life from nothing. Just like we did." Ruth was not fully convinced, but she kept her doubts quiet. Over time, she grew to love Naomi. She saw how Naomi cared for Marcus, how she supported his dreams, how she never asked for anything expensive or fancy. When Naomi became pregnant with twins, Ruth cried tears of joy. She started knitting baby blankets immediately. She called every day to check on Naomi's health. Everything seemed perfect. But perfection never lasts. The trouble started on a Tuesday afternoon. Naomi was 8 months pregnant. She felt sharp pains in her stomach while cooking dinner. Marcus rushed her to Riverside General Hospital, the closest facility with a good maternity ward. The emergency room was crowded. Marcus helped Naomi to the front desk, where a nurse named Patricia looked up with tired eyes. "Name and insurance information," Patricia said flatly. Marcus gave their names and handed over their insurance card. It was basic coverage from his small business. Nothing fancy, but it should cover a hospital stay. Patricia looked at the card, then looked at Naomi. Her eyes moved up and down, taking in Naomi's simple dress, her worn shoes, her natural hair. "This insurance has a very high deductible," Patricia said slowly. "You might want to consider a different facility." Marcus frowned. "What do you mean? My wife is in pain. She's 8 months pregnant with twins." "I'm just saying," Patricia continued, "there are county hospitals that might be more suitable for your situation." Naomi squeezed Marcus's hand. "Let's just stay, please, the babies." A young nurse named Grace, who was walking past with some files, stopped and looked at the scene. Her face showed concern. She glanced at Naomi's swollen belly, then at Patricia's dismissive expression. "I can help process them," Grace offered quietly. Patricia waved her hand. "Fine, take them to triage, but make sure billing knows about the insurance situation." Grace led Marcus and Naomi down the hallway. As they walked, she leaned close and whispered, "I'm sorry about that. Patricia can be difficult. Don't worry, we'll take good care of you." Marcus nodded gratefully, but he noticed other staff members watching them as they passed. Some looked curious, some looked judgmental. One older doctor actually stepped aside dramatically, as if he did not want to be near them. What was happening here? The next few hours were a blur of tests and monitoring. The doctors determined that Naomi was experiencing early labor. The twins were trying to come out too soon. They gave her medication to slow the contractions and admitted her to a room on the 4th floor. The room was small, much smaller than the rooms Marcus had seen through other doorways, but he did not complain. He was just grateful Naomi was being treated. That first night, everything seemed calm. The nurses checked on Naomi regularly. Grace came by during her shift and brought extra blankets. She was kind and professional, treating Naomi with genuine respect. But Marcus noticed something strange. Whenever the head administrator walked past their room, he paused and looked in. His name was Charles Whitmore, according to his badge. He was a tall white man with silver hair and cold blue eyes. He never smiled. He never said hello. He just looked at Naomi like she was a problem that needed to be solved. On the second day, the contractions became stronger. The medication was not working anymore. The doctors decided to perform an emergency cesarean section. Marcus held Naomi's hand as they wheeled her toward the operating room. "I love you," he said. "You're going to be fine. Our babies are going to be fine." Naomi looked up at him with tears in her eyes. "If anything happens to me, take care of them. Promise me. Nothing is going to happen to you. Promise me, Marcus." "I promise." The surgery took 2 hours. Marcus waited in a small room, pacing back and forth, praying to every god he could think of. Ruth called 3 times. Samuel texted asking for updates. Grace brought Marcus some water and told him the doctors were very skilled. Finally, a doctor came out. He was smiling. "Congratulations, you have 2 healthy baby girls. Your wife is stable and resting." Marcus collapsed into a chair, overwhelmed with relief. He thanked the doctor about 15 times, then he called his mother and cried on the phone with her. When he was finally allowed to see Naomi, she was holding their daughters in her arms. They were tiny and perfect, with soft brown skin and curious eyes that seemed to already be taking in the world. "We did it," Naomi whispered. Marcus kissed her forehead. "You did it, you're amazing." They named the twins Hope and Faith. It seemed right. After everything they had been through, those names felt like a declaration of what they believed in. For the next 6 hours, Marcus thought the worst was over. He was wrong. The door opened without a knock. Charles Whitmore walked in, followed by a woman from the billing department. She was holding a tablet and looking at it with a frown. "Mr. and Mrs. Johnson," Whitmore said coldly, "we need to discuss your account." Naomi was still exhausted from surgery. She looked up weakly. "Can this wait? I just gave birth." "It cannot wait." Whitmore turned to the billing woman. "Explain." The woman cleared her throat. "Your insurance has denied coverage for the cesarean section. They claim it was elective surgery, not emergency surgery. Your total bill currently stands at $47,000. Marcus felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. $47,000? That's impossible. It was an emergency. The doctors said the babies would die if they didn't operate. "The insurance company disagrees," the woman said flatly. "And without payment or a payment plan, we cannot continue to provide services." Naomi tried to sit up. "What does that mean?" Whitmore smiled for the first time. It was not a warm smile. It was the smile of a man who enjoyed causing pain. "It means, Mrs. Johnson, that you need to leave. Today, we need this room for paying patients." "I just had surgery," Naomi said, her voice cracking. "The doctors said I need to stay for 3 days minimum. I'm still bleeding. My incision needs to be monitored. You can go to a county hospital. They're required to treat you regardless of payment." Whitmore looked at her with obvious disgust. "Riverside General is a private institution. We have standards." Marcus stepped forward. "Standards? What kind of standard throws a mother and her newborn babies out on the street? Mr. Johnson, I suggest you calm down." "I'm not going to calm down. This is wrong and you know it." Whitmore pulled out his phone. "Security, I need 2 officers on the 4th floor, room 412. We have a disturbance." Grace appeared in the doorway. She had heard the commotion. "Mr. Whitmore, please. This woman needs medical care. You can't just discharge her against medical advice." "Nurse Grace, this is not your concern. Return to your duties." "But sir, now." Grace looked at Naomi and Marcus with helpless eyes. She mouthed the words, "I'm sorry," and slowly backed away. "Now think about what you would do in Marcus's position. Your wife has just had emergency surgery. Your newborn babies need protection. And a man with power is telling you that none of that matters because you don't have enough money." 2 security guards arrived. They were large men with stern faces. One of them had his hand on his baton. "Escort them out," Whitmore ordered. "All of them." Marcus planted his feet. "We're not leaving. My wife needs medical care. You can call the police. You can call whoever you want, but we are not leaving this room until a doctor tells us it's safe." Whitmore raised an eyebrow. "Is that so?" "That's so." The administrator stepped closer, lowering his voice so only Marcus could hear. "Let me explain something to you. I know your type. You come to hospitals like this thinking you can take advantage of the system. You have babies you can't afford. You expect hardworking people to pay for your mistakes. But not here, not in my hospital." Marcus's hands curled into fists. "My type? Don't play dumb with me. I see your wife. I see you. I know exactly what you are." Marcus wanted to swing. Every muscle in his body screamed at him to hit this man as hard as he could. But he looked back at Naomi, holding their daughters, looking terrified. If he got arrested, who would protect them? He took a deep breath. "I want to speak to the hospital director, someone above you." Whitmore laughed. "I am the hospital director's right hand, and he agrees with everything I'm doing. Would you like to call him yourself?" He held out his phone mockingly. A small crowd had gathered in the hallway. Other patients, family members, nurses, a few doctors. Most of them just watched. Some whispered to each other. One older woman shook her head sadly, but did nothing. Only one person stepped forward. An older black man in a janitor's uniform. His name tag said Henry. "This isn't right," Henry said quietly. "You can't throw out a woman who just had surgery." Whitmore turned on him. "Henry, go clean something. This doesn't concern you." "It concerns me because it's wrong. If you say another word, you're fired." Henry looked at the ground. He was 62 years old. He had worked at this hospital for 15 years. He could not afford to lose his job. He stepped back, shame in his eyes. Whitmore turned to the security guards. "Get them out." Now the guards moved forward. One of them grabbed Marcus's arm. Marcus shook him off. "Don't touch me. Sir, we can do this the easy way or the hard way." Naomi started crying. "Marcus, please, let's just go." We'll figure something out. Please don't get hurt. Marcus looked at his wife, at his babies, at the impossible choice in front of him. He lowered his arms. We need a wheelchair, he said through gritted teeth. She can't walk. Whitmore waved his hand. Get them a wheelchair and make sure they exit through the back. I don't want other patients seeing this. The back exit, like trash being taken out. A nurse brought a wheelchair. Not Grace, she was nowhere to be seen. A different nurse, older, with a hard face. She helped Naomi into the wheelchair roughly, without gentleness. Naomi winced in pain. Please be careful. The nurse said nothing. Marcus carried hope in one arm and faith in the other. They were so small, so fragile. They had blankets wrapped around them, but the blankets were thin. It was March. The weather outside was cold. They were wheeled through service hallways, past laundry rooms and storage areas. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The floor was dirty. Finally, they reached a metal door. One of the security guards pushed it open and cold air rushed in. Out, he said. Marcus stepped through the door. He was standing in an alley behind the hospital. There were dumpsters to his left, a loading dock to his right. No benches, no shelter, just concrete and trash. The security guard pushed Naomi's wheelchair through the door and left it in the alley. Good luck, he said. There was no sincerity in his voice. The door slammed shut behind them. Marcus stood there, holding his two newborn daughters, looking at his wife who was still recovering from major surgery. They had no car. Marcus had taken a taxi to the hospital 2 days ago. They had no money for another taxi. His phone was almost dead. What do we do? Naomi whispered. I don't know. He had never felt so helpless in his entire life. The wind picked up. One of the babies started crying, then the other. Naomi tried to take them, but she was too weak. The painkillers were wearing off. Her face was pale. I can't feel my legs properly, she said. Something's wrong. Marcus's heart dropped. Wrong how? I don't know, just wrong. Please call someone, anyone. Marcus looked at his phone. 3% battery. He called his mother. Mama, I need help. We're at the hospital. Behind it. They threw us out. Naomi's sick. I need you to come get us. Ruth's voice was frantic. What do you mean they threw you out? You just had babies. I'll explain later. Please hurry. I'm coming right now. The phone died. Marcus crouched down next to Naomi. He wrapped his jacket around the babies, trying to keep them warm. Naomi was shivering. Stay with me, he said. Mama's coming. We're going to be okay. I'm so sorry, Marcus. Sorry for what? For all of this, for not being honest with you about everything. He frowned. What are you talking about? But Naomi's eyes were closing. She was fading. Hey. Stay awake. Naomi, stay awake. Somewhere in the distance, he heard sirens. He prayed they were coming for them, but they passed by without stopping. Minutes felt like hours. The babies kept crying. Naomi's skin was getting colder. Then a car pulled into the alley. Not his mother's old minivan, something else. A sleek black SUV with tinted windows. The door opened and a woman stepped out. She was tall and elegant, wearing an expensive coat. Behind her, more vehicles appeared. 2 more, a limousine. And from the limousine, a man emerged. He was in his 60s, black, with silver hair and a neatly trimmed beard. He wore a tailored suit that probably cost more than Marcus's entire garage. His shoes were polished to a mirror shine, and he was smiling. The man walked toward them with calm, measured steps. The woman from the first SUV rushed to Naomi, pulling out medical supplies from a bag. She's lost too much blood, the woman said urgently. We need to get her to a proper facility now. Marcus stepped back, confused and protective. Who are you? What's happening? The older man stopped in front of him. My name is Victor Hayes. I'm Naomi's father. Marcus blinked. You're, what? Her father. Victor looked down at Naomi with an expression of deep pain mixed with fierce love. I know she told you I was distant, that I didn't approve of her choices. That was true once, but I never stopped watching over her. I never stopped loving her. I don't understand. Naomi said you were poor, working class. Living paycheck to paycheck. Victor smiled again, but this time it was sad. My daughter wanted to live a simple life. She rejected my money, my world. She wanted to find someone who loved her for who she was, not for what she could give them. Marcus looked at the limousine. At the SUVs, at the woman who was clearly a private doctor. Are you rich? I'm Victor Hayes, the man repeated, as if that explained everything, and suddenly it did. Marcus had heard that name before. Victor Hayes was one of the wealthiest men in America. He owned telecommunications companies, media networks, and real estate across 3 continents. Forbes had listed him in the top 20 billionaires in the world for the past decade. And he was Naomi's father. Why didn't she tell me? Marcus whispered. Victor put a hand on his shoulder, because she was afraid that if you knew, you would treat her differently, or that others would use you to get to her. To get to me, he paused. She wanted to be loved for herself. I respect that, but right now, none of that matters. Right now, I need to save my daughter. The doctor was loading Naomi into one of the SUVs, which had been converted into a mobile medical unit. The babies were handed to 2 nurses who had appeared from another vehicle. We're taking her to a private hospital, Victor said. The best doctors in the country are already waiting. Your daughters will be examined and cared for as well. Marcus shook his head, overwhelmed. This is too much, I can't. You can, and you will, because you love her. Victor's eyes hardened. But first, I have something to take care of. He turned and looked at Riverside General Hospital. Someone in that building hurt my daughter and my grandchildren. Someone threw them out like they were nothing. Like they were trash. His voice was quiet but deadly. I don't forgive things like that. Ruth arrived in her old minivan just as the convoy was preparing to leave. She jumped out of the car, eyes wide, completely confused by the scene in front of her. Marcus, what in the world is happening? Who are all these people? Marcus hugged his mother. Mama, it's okay, Naomi's father is here. He's going to help us. Her father, the one who never came to the wedding, the one who… Ruth stopped when she saw Victor approaching. She looked him up and down, then looked at the limousine. You're Victor Hayes, she said slowly. Victor nodded. I am. My son married your daughter. He did. Ruth processed this information for a long moment, then she crossed her arms. Well, it's about time you showed up. To everyone's surprise, Victor laughed. A genuine, warm laugh. You must be Ruth. Naomi told me about you. She said you were the toughest woman she'd ever met. Flattery won't work on me, Mr. Hayes. I wouldn't dream of it. Victor gestured toward one of the… Please, come with us. Your son and granddaughters need you, so does my daughter. Ruth looked at Marcus. He nodded. Okay, Ruth said, but we're going to have a long talk later about keeping secrets. The convoy left the alley, but Victor didn't go with them. Instead, he walked toward the front entrance of Riverside General Hospital. 2 men in suits flanked him. Lawyers, Marcus would later learn, the most expensive lawyers money could buy. Victor Hayes had built his empire by being smarter, tougher, and more patient than everyone else. He didn't explode in anger. He didn't make scenes. He simply destroyed his enemies so completely that they never recovered. And he always did it with a smile. Charles Whitmore was in his office, feeling quite pleased with himself. He had solved a problem efficiently. The hospital's reputation was maintained. The undesirable patients were gone. His phone rang. It was his secretary, and she sounded terrified. Sir, there's someone here to see you. He walked right past security. They couldn't stop him. What do you mean they couldn't stop him? Call the police. Sir, I don't think you understand. It's Victor Hayes. Whitmore's blood went cold. Victor Hayes. Victor Hayes, the door to his office opened. Victor walked in, still smiling. His lawyers remained by the door watching. Mr. Whitmore, Victor said pleasantly, we need to talk. Whitmore stood up, trying to maintain his composure. Mr. Hayes, I'm not sure what this is about, but if you don't have an appointment, sit down. The words were soft, but carried absolute authority. Whitmore sat. Victor took the chair across from him, crossing his legs casually. About an hour ago, your security guards threw my daughter out of this hospital. She had just undergone emergency surgery. She was still bleeding. She was holding my newborn granddaughters. Whitmore's face went pale. Your daughter, Naomi Johnson, or as you probably know her, that black woman in room 412 who couldn't pay her bill. I had no idea. Of course you didn't, because you didn't care enough to find out who she was. You looked at her skin color and her insurance card, and you decided she was worthless. Mr. Hayes, there's been a misunderstanding. There's been no misunderstanding. Victor leaned forward. I watched your security footage on the way here. Yes, I already have it. I saw what you said to her husband. I heard the words, I know your type. I saw you throw my daughter out the back door like garbage. Whitmore was sweating now. I was just following protocol. Protocol. Victor nodded slowly. Let me tell you about protocol. In the next 48 hours, the following things will happen. First, the medical board will receive a complaint about this hospital's emergency discharge practices. Second, every news network in the country, and I own several of them, will run a story about what happened here today. Third, every major insurance company will receive documentation suggesting that this hospital systematically denies care to minority patients. Fourth, a team of forensic accountants will begin examining this hospital's financial records. I'm quite certain they'll find irregularities. You can't do this. I'm already doing it. Victor stood up. And finally, you personally will face criminal charges for endangering a patient's life. My lawyers have already contacted the district attorney. She owes me several favors. Whitmore stood too, desperate now. Please, Mr. Hayes, I have a family. I made a mistake. Victor paused at the door. You have a family. So did my daughter when you threw her into an alley. Did you think about her family then? I'll apologize. I'll do anything. It's too late for apologies. Victor's smile never wavered. But I'll tell you what. If you resign today, right now, in writing, I'll make sure you don't go to prison. You'll lose your career. You'll lose your reputation. But you'll keep your freedom. And if I don't, then I'll destroy you so completely that your own family won't recognize what's left. Victor walked out, leaving Whitmore alone with his terror. The private hospital was like nothing Marcus had ever seen. Naomi had her own suite, larger than their entire apartment. Doctors checked on her every hour. The twins were in a state-of-the-art nursery, monitored by the best pediatric specialists in the city. Marcus sat by Naomi's bed, holding her hand, watching her sleep. Ruth sat in a chair nearby, knitting a baby blanket she had brought from home. You didn't know, Ruth said quietly, about who she really was. No, are you angry? Marcus thought about it. I should be. She lied to me for 3 years. She hid this massive secret. He looked at Naomi's peaceful face, but I understand why she did it. She wanted to be loved for herself, not for her father's money. That's a good answer. I just wish she had trusted me enough to tell me. Ruth set down her knitting. Marcus, trust isn't just about telling secrets. It's about believing in someone's character. She believed that you would love her no matter what. She was right. The door opened, and Victor walked in. He had changed out of his suit into more casual clothes, though his casual still looked more expensive than anything Marcus owned. How is she? Victor asked. Stable, Marcus said. The doctors say she'll make a full recovery. Victor pulled up a chair next to Marcus. For a long moment, neither man spoke. I owe you an explanation, Victor finally said. About why I stayed away. You don't owe me anything. I do, because you're my son-in-law and you deserve to know the truth. Victor looked at his daughter with love and regret in his eyes. When Naomi was a little girl, she was my whole world. Her mother, my wife, died when Naomi was 12. Cancer. It destroyed me. I threw myself into work, into building my empire. I thought that if I could just make enough money, enough power, I could protect Naomi from everything bad in the world. He paused, but I made a terrible mistake. I tried to control her. I picked her schools, her friends, and her career path. I even tried to pick her husband, the son of another wealthy family, a merger more than a marriage. Marcus listened without judgment. Naomi refused. She said she would never be a pawn in my business games. We had a huge fight. Terrible things were said. She left my house that night and never came back. She changed her last name. She lived on her own money, refusing every penny I offered. She wanted to prove that she could survive without me. But you kept watching her, Marcus said. Always from a distance. I hired people to make sure she was safe. When she met you, I had you investigate thoroughly. Victor smiled slightly. You came up clean, a good man from a good family. A man who worked hard and treated people with respect. I knew Naomi had made a good choice. Then why didn't you come to the wedding? Victor's face fell. Pride, stubbornness. I was still angry that she had left. I thought if I stayed away, she would eventually come crawling back. He shook his head. I was a fool. I missed my daughter's wedding. I missed 3 years of her life. And today, I almost lost her forever because I wasn't there when she needed me." Naomi's eyes fluttered open. "Papa," Victor leaned forward, tears in his eyes. "I'm here, sweetheart, I'm here. You came. I'll always come, no matter how far you run, no matter how hard you push me away. I'll always come." Naomi reached out and took her father's hand. "I'm sorry I ran. I'm sorry I made you feel like you had to." Marcus watched this reunion, feeling like an outsider, but then Naomi looked at him and smiled. "Marcus, this is my father. Papa, this is the man I love more than anyone in the world." Victor extended his hand. "We met briefly, but I'd like to start over, properly, this time." Marcus shook his hand. "I'd like that too." In the following days, the story of what happened at Riverside General Hospital became national news. Just as Victor had promised, every major network covered it. The headlines were brutal. Billionaire's daughter thrown out of hospital after giving birth. Hospital administrator resigns in disgrace. Investigation reveals pattern of discrimination at Riverside General. Charles Whitmore resigned within 24 hours of his meeting with Victor. He released a public statement apologizing for his lapse in judgment, but the apology did nothing to stop the investigations. Within a week, 3 other administrators had been fired. The hospital's CEO stepped down. The board of directors announced a complete overhaul of their policies regarding patient treatment and billing practices. Grace, the kind nurse who had tried to help Naomi, was promoted to head of patient advocacy. Henry, the janitor who had spoken up, was given a significant raise and an apology from the new management. But not everyone at the hospital paid a price. Patricia, the dismissive nurse at the front desk, had quietly disappeared. She had transferred to another hospital before any investigation could reach her. Marcus heard that she was telling people she had left for personal reasons and that the whole incident had been blown out of proportion. That wasn't justice. Not yet, and then there was the betrayal that still burned in Marcus's heart. It came to light on the 5th day after the twins were born. Naomi was recovering well, and the family was beginning to settle into a new normal. Victor had offered them a house, a mansion, really, but Marcus had politely declined. "We'll find our own place," he said, "something we can afford on our own." Victor had respected that decision. But that morning, Marcus received a phone call that shook him to his core. It was from Grace, the nurse. "There's something you need to know," she said, "about why the insurance claim was denied so quickly." "What do you mean?" "Insurance claims usually take days or weeks to process. But yours was denied within hours. That doesn't happen by accident. Someone flagged your file. Someone inside the hospital called the insurance company directly and told them to deny the claim." Marcus felt ice forming in his stomach. "Who?" "I don't know the name, but I saw the call log." The call came from the hospital's billing department at 2:47 a.m. the night your wife was admitted. "Someone wanted you out of here before the babies were even born." Marcus thanked Grace and hung up. His mind was racing. Who would have done this? Who even knew they were at the hospital? He had called 3 people that first night: his mother, his brother Samuel, and their close family friend, a woman named Deborah who worked as a medical billing specialist at a different hospital. Deborah, she had offered to look into their insurance coverage. She had promised to help. Marcus called Samuel. "Did you tell anyone about Naomi being in the hospital?" Samuel sounded confused. "Just Deborah. She said she could maybe pull some strings, get you a discount or something." "Why?" Marcus hung up without answering. He confronted Deborah that afternoon. She lived in a nice house in a quiet suburb. Much nicer than Marcus would have expected on a billing specialist's salary. She opened the door and smiled when she saw him. "Marcus, how are the babies? I heard everything turned out okay." "Did you do it?" The smile faltered. "Do what?" "Did you call the insurance company and tell them to deny our claim?" Deborah's face went through several expressions: surprise, fear, and then something cold, something calculating. "I don't know what you're talking about. I have phone records, Deborah, from the hospital. Someone called at 2:47 a.m. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she sighed and stepped back from the door. "You might as well come in." Marcus followed her into the living room. It was decorated with expensive furniture, crystal vases, art on the walls. You want to know the truth? Deborah sat down on a leather couch. Fine. Yes, I made the call. Yes, I knew what would happen. Why? Because Charles Whitmore paid me $5,000 to do it. She said it without shame. He has people in every hospital in this city. We flag certain patients. Minority patients with weak insurance. Patients who won't be able to fight back. We make sure they get denied, transferred, or removed quickly. It keeps the hospital's numbers clean. Marcus couldn't believe what he was hearing. Naomi almost died. My daughters almost died. For $5,000, nothing personal, Marcus, just business, just business. He repeated the words like they were poison. We've known each other for 15 years. You came to my father's funeral. You held my mother when she cried, Deborah shrugged. And now I have a nice house and a comfortable life. Your family was nice, Marcus, but nice doesn't pay bills. Marcus stood up. His hands were shaking. You're going to pay for this. Am I? With what evidence? Those phone records don't prove anything. It's my word against yours, and I'm a respected professional with no criminal history. She was right. Without a confession on record, there was nothing he could do. But Deborah didn't know that Marcus had learned a few things from his new father-in-law. You're right, Marcus said quietly. There's nothing I can do. He walked toward the door, then paused. But Victor Hayes can do quite a lot. The color drained from Deborah's face. Victor Hayes, Naomi's father, my father-in-law, the billionaire. I'm sure he'd be very interested to hear about the network of people sabotaging minority patients across the city. You wouldn't, Marcus smiled. It was not a warm smile. Try me. Within a month, Deborah and 14 other hospital employees across Chicago were arrested for conspiracy to commit fraud and reckless endangerment. The investigation revealed a network that had been operating for over 5 years, denying care to hundreds of patients. Patricia, the dismissive nurse, was found and arrested in another state. Charles Whitmore, who had thought he escaped with just losing his job, was charged with multiple felonies. He pleaded guilty and received 5 years in prison. But for Marcus, justice wasn't just about punishment, it was about change. Working with Victor, he established the Naomi Johnson Foundation. Naomi chose to keep her married name. The foundation provided emergency financial assistance to patients being denied care due to insurance issues. Within its first year, it helped over 3,000 families. Grace became the foundation's medical advisor. Henry sat on the community outreach board. Ruth, who had been skeptical of Victor at first, became one of his closest friends. They played chess together every Sunday and argued about everything from politics to proper cornbread recipes. You're not so bad for a billionaire, she told him once. You're not so bad for someone who threatened to hit me with a frying pan the first time we met, Victor replied. 1 year later, Marcus and Naomi stood in their new home. Not a mansion, they had insisted on something modest. A nice 4-bedroom house in a good neighborhood. They had paid for it themselves, with money from Marcus's garage, which had expanded significantly thanks to increased business and smart investments. The twins, Hope and Faith, were sleeping in their nursery. They had grown so much in 1 year. They had their mother's smile and their father's stubborn chin. Naomi held something in her hand, the silver bracelet with the bird charm. I want you to have this back, she said to Marcus. It's yours. Your mother gave it to you. My mother told me to give it to the person I wanted to share my life with. That's you, Marcus. It's always been you. Marcus took the bracelet. It felt heavier now, full of meaning and memory. The night at the hospital, he said slowly, when you told me you were sorry for not being honest, were you going to tell me everything then? About your father? Naomi nodded. I thought I was dying. I didn't want to leave this world with that secret between us. You should have told me earlier. I know I was scared. Of what? Of losing you, of losing us. Of this beautiful, simple life we built together. She touched his face. But I learned something that night in the alley. Simple isn't always safe, and secrets can't protect the people you love. Only truth can do that. Marcus put the bracelet on his wrist. The bird charm glinted in the light. No more secrets? He asked. No more secrets? Sometimes Marcus still thought about that night in the alley, the cold, the fear, the feeling of absolute helplessness, but he also remembered what came after. The cars appeared out of nowhere. Victor stepped out of the limousine, the smile on his face that promised justice was coming. It taught him something important. Evil doesn't win when good people stand together. Power can be used to hurt, but it can also be used to heal. And love, real love, doesn't come from money or status. It comes from the choice to stand by someone when everything falls apart. If you've ever felt powerless, if you've ever been thrown out like trash, if you've ever been judged by your skin color or your bank account, remember this story. Remember that your worth isn't determined by the people who look down on you. It's determined by how you rise. And sometimes, just sometimes, the universe sends someone to remind the world exactly how much you're worth. Victor visited them every Sunday for dinner now. He played with the twins on the floor. He helped Marcus fix cars in the garage. He learned Ruth's cornbread recipe and pretended it was better than his personal chef's version. He was not the distant, cold billionaire the world thought he was. He was just a grandfather who had almost lost everything and had been given a second chance. One Sunday evening, as the family gathered around the dinner table, Hope reached out and grabbed Victor's finger. She looked up at him with those curious eyes and smiled. "Papa Vic," she said, her first words. Victor's eyes filled with tears. "That's right, sweetheart, Papa Vic." Marcus looked around the table at his family, his wife, his daughters, his mother, his father-in-law. A year ago, he had been standing in an alley, feeling like the whole world had abandoned him. Now he understood the truth. The world hadn't abandoned him. A few broken people in power had tried to crush him, but they failed. They failed because love is stronger than hate, family is stronger than fear, and justice eventually always finds a way. The bracelet on his wrist caught the candlelight. The bird seemed ready to take flight. Marcus smiled. They were going to be okay.